أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين والمعصومين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum. It is the first of Muharram, and today most of the Muslim Ummah, the Muslim nation across the world, would be celebrating the beginning of the Islamic New Year. But for us Shias, it's not a time to celebrate. It is the return of a time of mourning. It is the return of the remembrance of a figure who stood on the desert plains, hungry and thirsty for 3 days, surrounded by numbers of evil, evil soldiers hell-bent on killing him. It was his defiance of evil, his enjoining of the good, and his refusal to commit bad. It was his movement for the reformation of Islam. It was his honor, his duty, his very responsibility to preserve the religion of his grandfather against those who seek to destroy it and turn it to their own advantage. During these next 10 days, we will be remembering and mourning the sacrifice of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam at Karbala, which itself was the site of Islam's salvation, and Imam Hussain alayhi salam's eternal stand for justice, which will never be forgotten. Before we begin, we have to discuss what Karbala really is. Put most frankly, Karbala is a region alongside the river Euphrates in present-day Iraq. In Imam Hussain alayhi salam's time, it used to be inhabited by different tribes, spread few and far between along the only source of water in the region, which was the river. Present day, it is a site of the shrines of Imam Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salam and Abbas ibn Ali alayhi salam, as well as a number of other warriors from Banu Hashim who had fallen during the Battle of Karbala. But Kerbala, in essence, is more than its physical city. It's a symbol, it's a movement. It was a very idea that keeps it alive in everyone's memories to this day. Kerbala in itself, it was a story of sacrifice, a good against evil, a battle of the truth against fallacy and lies. It was a movement to awaken people from their newfound age of ignorance that had fallen upon them, the worst spread of ignorance since Ayyam Jahiliyyah, the time of ignorance from when Rasulullah had begun preaching Islam in the first place. A sort of fog of ignorance like that had fallen upon the people again, and Imam Hussain had set out to once again reawaken the intellect, the intelligence of the people, to fight against tyranny and oppression, to expose those who would desecrate religion, who would desecrate the very holy lands, the holy ideals placed by God through his prophet, the very grandfather of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, Rasulullah Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Karbala is a message. Many people would seek to shorten it down to a battle or a place. It's a message to the generations across the world, all the way through to today and to the future. A message that tells us when there is oppression and tyranny, when there are people who seek to destroy that which is pure, you cannot stand by idly. And that is exactly what Imam Hussain had pushed towards us when he stood on the plains of Karbala. And while many people view the Battle of Karbala as a decisive defeat for him, it was in all ways a victory greater than whatever Yazid won. The Battle of Karbala, Imam Hussein's great sacrifice, his shahadat, his martyrdom, the killing of his companions and kinsmen, followed by the imprisonment of his family and children, the torture they endured, all of it moved on to the reformation of the Muslim Ummah, the Muslim nation. It was the salvation of Islam. It was the defense of righteousness and justice. When the people of Arabia heard about what had happened, they no longer stood by idly while their ideals, their hopes, their freedoms were crushed into dust. After the sacrifice of Imam Hussein, rebellions rose across Arabia. To preserve the message of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to avenge the unjust killing of the messenger's grandson and his companions. But how did this all happen? Now, the essence of Karbala goes back all the way to Ghadir during Rasulullah's Hajjat al-Wada, the final Hajj. On the way back from Hajj, when he was going back to Medina, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stopped the caravan along the way at a place called Ghadir by the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he cried out, "O people, do I not have wilaya?" In Shia Islam, the concept of wilaya, in simple words, would either mean mastership, guardianship, or control. So when he said, "Do I not have wilaya?" it means, do I not have more control? So he is saying, do I not have more wilaya? Do I not have wilaya over you more than you have over yourself? The people replied, "Yes, O Prophet." Then he went on to say, "God is my wali," meaning master, "and I am the wali of the believers, and I have walaya over them more than they have over themselves. So whoever's wali, master, I am, then this Ali ibn Abi Talib is his wali, master too." This proclamation, this very important proclamation, put the first Imam of Shia Islam, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, into position as the successor of Rasulullah, as the future leader of the Muslim Ummah, the nation. And he went on to say, "O God, befriend and be the wali of anyone who loves Ali alayhi salam and considers him as his wali. Be the enemy of anyone who is his enemy, and assist anyone who assists him, and abandon anyone who abandons him." This proclamation was met by cheers and love for Rasulullah by his true supporters, by his true companions. But many among these so-called supporters were hypocrites, people who seek to get close to Rasulullah only so they could either gain control, gain more power. And many of them actually vied for Rasulullah's support so that they could become the leader of the Ummah after him, the leader of the nation. This declaration of succession by Rasulullah, it created a deep-found hatred for Imam Ali in a number of people. So after Rasulullah had passed away and Imam Ali was at his funeral, a number of the rich and powerful from various tribes met at a place called Thaqifa, a small area, a small palm garden, you could say. And there they began to discuss and tried to choose a leader from amongst themselves. What they did not realize was that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had not received this order by himself. He had not done this by himself. This message had come from God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, directly. In Al-Quran Al-Kareem, Surah number 5, ayah 67, this was revealed on the very day that the proclamation happened, the day of Ghadir. And it said, O Messenger, make known that which has been revealed to you from your Lord. For if you do it not, you will not have conveyed his message. This very thing that had been made known to Rasulullah was that Imam Ali had to be appointed as successor. And the importance of this in the ayah is outright defined by the last part of it. For if you do not do it, you will not have conveyed his message. Meaning that if he had not done the proclamation at Ghadir, it would have been as if he had never spread Islam in the first place. And after the proclamation, another ayah came down in the same surah, Surah 5, ayah 3. This day have I perfected your religion for you, completed my favor to you, and have chosen Islam for you as a religion. Meaning that after the proclamation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the religion of Islam complete. There are no more things to add to the religion. The religion is now perfect, and God has chosen this religion for you. Now, of course, there were people who weren't happy with this either, such as at Taqifa. Eventually, the rich and powerful at Taqifa had a falling out, and they started drawing arms and fighting. In the chaos, one of them pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr, and going on from there, Abu Bakr became the first caliph of the Muslim Ummah after Rasulullah. This was not well met by the supporters of Imam Ali, but they were told to stand down as there was really nothing that could be done to stop the rich and powerful from taking control. One thing that Imam Ali knew could not be taken from him was his wilaya. Wilaya in Shia Islam is translated as mastership or control, but it is so much more than that. It means divine authority, authority vested in Imam Ali by God himself. Abu Bakr could take control of the Ummah, he could call himself caliph, but he could never take the God-given authority that put Imam Ali in command of all of the Muslims. And that's when the real tensions started to happen. Now, if we look at the family trees, Abu Sufyan was a great enemy to Rasulullah, and he only converted to Islam once his life was in danger. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib had then risen to become a caliph, the fourth caliph of Islam, but was shortly assassinated by traitors. His oldest son, Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salam, the second Imam of Islam, then became caliph, but was forced to sign over the caliphate to Abu Sufyan's son, Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan, who was creating discord in the Islamic Empire. And this is the very same reason that Imam Hassan had passed over the caliphate, because they could take away the caliphate, but they can never take away the divine authority. No matter what happens, the Imams of Islam will always be in control of the Ummah. It does not matter if they are caliph, if they are king, if they are emperor. All they need to be are Imams. They just need to be walis, and they have control. Muawiyah can force Imam Hassan to sign over the caliphate, but he cannot take away the walaya of the Imams. Imam Hassan was then still the leader of the Ummah, but Muawiyah had forcefully taken control as caliph and started buying away the supporters of the Imams through bribes and death threats. Until eventually Imam Hassan's own wife assassinated him with poison. The role of Imam was then passed over to Imam Ali's second son, Imam Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salam, the third Imam of Islam. It was during his time that Muawiyah attained death, and Yazid, ibn Muawiyah became the caliph. Now, when Muawiyah died on the 15th of Rajab, 60 years after Hijrah, which is April 24th, year 680 on the Gregorian calendar, it would have caused discord because Muawiyah was a fascist sort of ruler. He had very little love for him in his empire, and he mainly kept all of that through fear. So, without making Muawiyah's death known, Yazid made himself the new caliph and set out one order: extract allegiance from everyone at any cost. And that is when the great civil wars of the empire broke out. Yazid wanted to extract allegiance from three of the leaders that he could see among the Ummah: Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the apparent leader of the Muslims; Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Bakr, the son of the first Caliph Abu Bakr; and Abdullah ibn Zubair. All three of them refused, but Ibn Abu Bakr and Ibn Zubair actively rebelled against Yazid in a struggle to take the caliphate for themselves. They were both suppressed by the armies of Yazid, which ended with the siege and ransacking and pillaging of the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Yazid then saw that only one leader stood defiant against him: Imam Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salam. Yazid ordered his newly positioned governor of Medina, Marwan bin Ahkam lanatullah alayh, ordering him to give Hussein's allegiance or to give him his head. Imam Hussein recognized the threat to his life, as Marwan was now sending out soldiers to try and capture Imam Hussein. And as such, on the 28th of Rajab, 60 AH, Imam Hussein set out for Hajj. So you can see here through this small animation, his path to Mecca. He arrived on the 3rd of Shaban, 60 AH. Imam Hussein arrived in Mecca on this very day, and he stayed there for about 5 months. The people of Mecca were overjoyed of the Imam's arrival and supported him, and would go to see him during the days and the evenings. But it was at this time that the Imam began to receive letters from the people of Kufa, asking him to come and help them against the Yazidi government there. They promised him that they would support him and would follow the Imam wherever he went and whatever he did. So Imam Hussein sent out his cousin Muslim bin Aqil alayhi salam to verify the pleas of the Kufans. A part of this letter was over here: praise to God who defeated your oppressive enemy. The enemy who attacked this ummah confiscated the property and became their ruler without their consent. Then he killed the best and kept the worst and shared the treasure of God among the wealthy. God forbids, like Thamud. But now we do not have an imam. Come, may God unite us under your leadership towards a path of truth. A part of a letter to Imam Hussein from Kufa. Yazid heard of the festering rebellion in Kufa against his rule and replaced the lenient governor there with the very cruel and vengeful Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, who then decreed that whoever helps Imam Hussein's cousin Muslim bin Aqil alayhi salam will be executed without trial. The people of Kufa abandoned Muslim alayhi salam, and he was shortly captured and martyred. His head was cut from his body, and his body was paraded through the streets of Kufa on a camel. Yazid then set his eyes on trying to assassinate Imam Hussein once more. He sent assassins with swords under their pilgrim garments, under their ihram, during Hajj to kill Imam Hussein during the sacred pilgrimage. Realizing the danger, Imam Hussein cut short his Hajj into an Umrah and prepared to leave Mecca. Now, a vital point arises here, asking, why did he leave? If the only reason that Imam Hussein wanted was to expose Yazid, if he wanted to attain Shahadat, why didn't he just do it at Mecca? He knew the assassins were there, and he knew there was an imminent threat to his life. He knew there were thousands of people there who would have seen it. But why did he go to Karbala? There are multiple reasons for this. One of them was that he did not want to taint the sacred soil of Mecca with the killing of the Ahlul Bayt, with the killing of the member of the Ahlul Bayt, of the family of Rasulullah, with the killing of the very person that Rasulullah had said, Hussain minni wa ana min al-Hussain. Hussein is from me and I'm from Hussein, the very proclaimed son of Rasulullah. He did not want his blood to taint the soil of Mecca. And secondly, if he had been assassinated during Hajj, it would not have been made clear that it was Yazid. There were witnesses, but no one would know where the killers came from, who the killers were, who they worked for. Of course, Imam Hussein had only one serious enemy, and that was Yazid. But the people would not have found the courage to rise up against Yazid. And as such, Imam Hussein set out to Karbala, where the message could be made far more clear than a hidden assassination in Mecca. On the 8th of Dhul Hajj, Imam Hussein left Mecca for Kufa, where he was to meet his cousin Muslim alayhi with the support of the Kufans. He was stopped short of Kufa by Yazidi cavalry company under the command of Al-Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi. Hur told Imam Hussein that Kufa was blocked to him, his cousin had been killed. Imam Hussein asked, "We shall go back to Mecca then?" Hur refused. Imam Hussein said, "Let us stop to drink water." Hur refused. And as such, Imam Hussein moved towards Karbala and arrived on the 2nd of Muharram, 61 AH, which is October 5th, year 680 of the Gregorian calendar, with a caravan of 72 men of various ages facing a Yazidi army of 4,000 soldiers, archers, and horsemen under the command of Umar bin Sa'd. Imam Hussein, when he had left Mecca, had a large party, hundreds of people. But now on the desert plains of Karbala, he stood with 72 kinsmen and companions. The stage was set for the greatest sacrifice of history. As you can see through here, 3rd Shaban, Imam Hussein sets out. Kufa is then blocked to him. He cannot return. He cannot stay. He is forced to move towards Karbala. When he arrived there, he asked, "What is the name of this place?" Someone replied to him, "It is Nanawa." Imam Hussein asked for another name. Then someone replied to him, "It is known as Karbala." Imam Hussein then dismounted and said, "My father and I passed through here," and referred to this place as a place of Karb and Bala, the place of pain and trial. It is here that the blood of the Ahlul Bayt, the very sacred lives of the family Rasulullah, would be unjustly taken. And the greatest sacrifice of history would be made. The time for the reformation of the Muslim Ummah neared.